that scab on our knee that we just keep picking at. But sooner or later, when the time is right, we decide that we'd rather be healed than hurting. We ask ourselves, who is being hurt now by our lack of forgiveness? The rule of the world is, do unto others as they've done unto you. But when we choose to forgive and heal, we make a conscious decision to lay aside our right to vengeance and submission. It also means that we accept the fact that we need forgiveness too. In the moment of making that decision, we're doing a couple of things. When we hit that aha moment, we finally decide, I'm going to leave the vengeance to God, and I'm going to choose for myself a path of forgiveness and healing. Because I'd rather be healed than hurting. The next step in our process requires that we begin to look for that real person behind the demon that we've created in our minds. You know that person that we loved at one time? That person that could do no wrong? That person that we thought the sun rose and set on? Well, now they're a demon in our mind. But when we reach the point where we want to heal, and we want to be whole and complete again, we begin to see that they are just weak and needy and fallible, just like we are. We begin to find reasons in our heart to look for reasons to give mercy instead of malice. That doesn't mean that we grant them victim status and excuse all the wrong things that they did to us. We're forgiving, not excusing. And there's not a one of us here this morning that hasn't gone through some awful things. We have had people hurt us deeply. We've had people rip our hearts out. We have had people say things about us, do things to us, and ultimately hurt us in horrible ways. And forgiveness is not about excusing those things. It's about moving past it. Doesn't mean that we have to treat them in a bad way. Chances are we may never be in the same kind of relationship that we were with that person. But we begin to see that person in a new light. We begin to see that person as a participant in this messy thing that we call life, just like we are. As our passage points out, we're simply doing for them what God has done for us. You know, God could have looked down and seen our sin and said, I've seen enough. It's all I need to know about them. God looked beyond our sins, our shortcomings, our weaknesses, our failures, all the times that we've grieved his heart, and he saw something worth loving in each and every one of us. Enough so that he sent his own son to die on our behalf, in spite of all the things that we've done to hurt him. And as hard as it may be, and as much as it goes against the grain of our own humanity, that's what we've been called to do as well. When we get to that point, it's the stage of the process where you finally let the bitterness go. You know, so many of us, including myself, think, I've really forgiven that person for doing this to me. But there's a little part of our heart that hangs on to some bitterness in there. I'm not quite ready to let that bitterness go yet. Because if I let the bitterness go, that means this is completely over. It's done. It has no part in my life again. But when we let that bitterness go, that's when the final scab falls off. We don't have anything left to pick at again. And all we see is that new, fresh, pink skin. It says it's healed. Once that bitterness is gone, our status has changed from victim to victor. And as much as we think we like it, we don't know how to handle victory very well. We've all got that aw shucks kind of attitude. Oh, it wasn't nothing. The heck it wasn't. It was something big. To move from victim to victor is very big. When someone does something hurtful to us, we're the victim of their meanness. We're the victim of their thoughtlessness. And we sometimes believe that there's nothing we can do about that, but it's not true. That is the longest stage for many of us. We like wallowing in that victim phase because we don't really know how to handle victory very well. But when we forgive someone, when we truly forgive someone, and we've moved through the hurt and the hate, and we've let the bitterness go, we're able to stand up and say, that person will not control the way I respond. That person will not dictate who I am. And the last phase of forgiveness is, if possible, enjoy a healed relationship. Notice I didn't say the same relationship. I said a healed relationship. Sometimes the other person doesn't want to join us in a reconciliation. We've all been there. We're willing to forgive and move forward, but the other person, first of all, won't admit that they did anything wrong. They won't come to the table and say, I understand that I hurt you. Friends, we can't do anything about that. That's between them and God. We have no control over someone coming to the table to say, I accept the fact that I hurt you. But if they do recognize that they hurt or caused you pain, and they want that restored relationship, we as Christians have to be willing to allow that relationship to be restored. We have to celebrate the healing that takes place for both of us. When we talk about that forgive and forget stuff, that's where the forgiving part comes in. When a relationship has been restored. Many of us are walking around today without completion. We're still carrying a little scar where we were hurt. The scab's fallen off. It's healed over, but we have a scar that serves as a constant reminder that the forgetting part hasn't happened. That scar does not diminish the act of forgiveness. That scar just serves to remind us that we live in a fallen world. Not everyone is going to follow the example of Jesus Christ. Not everybody is going to come to us and say, yeah, I hurt you and I'm sorry and I ask for your forgiveness. Sometimes we have to give that forgiveness without them ever asking. We all wish we could live in a perfect world where we can all just get along and everybody would love each other. And when somebody does something wrong, they'll come to you and say, I was so wrong. And you go, oh, yes, you were. But we don't live in that world. We live in a fallen world, and evil is real. It exists. But sometimes we have to accept that we've done all that we possibly can do in the restoration of a relationship. Because it takes two parties to come to the table for true reconciliation. And I think we've all been a part of both of these situations. We've been in a situation in which we've been hurt and we've forgiven someone. They don't realize or they will not admit that they hurt us.